The morning news, 7:48. Look, the headlines of the Yakima Herald Republic, they tell your stories the last couple of days. Have spoken to the idea of ACLU lawsuit 2.0. The headline today, issues in lawsuit threat raise concerns. Basically, OneAmerica, a handful of local residents and others are eyeing the Yakima County election system and saying that it unfairly dilutes the Latino vote, and so they want to force the county to make some changes, giving them 180 days to respond with what the changes might be that would provide what, in their opinion, is a fair way to go. They also offer up a couple of options, and we're going to talk about all of that. Joining us, along with Lance Tormey, newsman to the stars, who knows all of the details.
Yeah.
Pressure, is Yakima County Prosecutor Joe Brusic. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Glad to have you in.
Thank you. It's once again, it's a privilege and honor to appear on your show, and I appreciate tremendously the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
You betcha. Joe, I was looking back at and just remembering the ACLU suit and some of the details as it played out in the city. And one of the gripes was that we had 4 districts and 3 at-large positions. And the 4 districts would hold a primary with candidates just from within that district. 2 would be selected as a result of votes achieved during that primary. And then for the general election, the entire city would vote on those people, with the idea that, hey, you know, you're going to serve the whole city ultimately with your decisions anyway. And the ACLU had a cow over that, saying, you know, here's what will happen. You'll see a Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, whatever the preferred term is, will win the primary and then go on to the general election and will be defeated by the white majority across the city. Now, I did the research on that, and it never really happened. I mean, yes, it is potentially possible that could have happened, but it never really did during our years of history. However, as I look at the county voting, which is kind of what they're talking about, the same situation, and you look into the August 7th primary, 2018, August 7th, in the primary, the number 1 vote getter of a 7-candidate race, 7 players. The number 1 candidate was Susan Soto Palmer with 2,400 votes. That was 26%. She got a quarter of all the votes in the primary. Then it went on to the general election, countywide. The number 2 vote getter was Norm Childress. And in the countywide vote, Norm Childress won. Well, there were, like I said, 7 candidates. That's an awful lot of votes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them all got over 1,000 votes each. So, I mean, that's a big chunk of votes spread out. They're all going to fall somewhere. The ACLU would tell you that Susan Soto Palmer won the primary and therefore should be the winner, but it went to a vote of all county residents, and the experience of Norm Childress from Grandview and all his years in office was enough to give him the win. They would point to this as the problem, and that's why we would need to go to no primary system, winner take all, first person up. If you if you split the votes, they're talking about this ranked system, so that gets you out of the worrying about splitting votes. And another thing that they say is this is to give Latino voters a voice, and I have maintained all along that it's a guarantee for Democrats in this area. That's what it amounts to. Democrats that, through their political ideology, their philosophy, their policy, couldn't win the day in a majority election, but are basically given almost a guarantee when they cook the system to allow to fast track not an underserved Latino person, but a Democrat, and that frustrates me. And I know you you're not in a position to necessarily address that at this point. But that's what really ticks me off. It's paints us as racists, and what it does is say we don't appreciate progressive West Side politics, which is exactly what OneAmerica brings to our door when they come and pursue this. So I'm frustrated by this. I'm seeing deja vu all over again, and I'm wondering if you've been involved in any conversations with commissioners, or what your role might be in advice or what have you as this thing moves forward.
Well, I'm going to classically be a lawyer right now. And that's exactly why people have hopefully put me in and entrusted this position to me, because I cannot comment on that. I mean, that is commentary. Certainly everyone is entitled to their opinion. But once again, we received this letter on Wednesday, the 15th. Myself and Don Anderson, our chief civil deputy, have met with our client, the county commissioners, yesterday. The reality is we've had a privileged conversation with our client. All right. We cannot discuss that and will not.
Fair enough.
It's been my position legally as county attorney and as their attorney, specifically not to comment specifically in terms of where we're going. Now, the reason is this. This isn't, lawyers have to be careful in terms of our ethical considerations. It's exceptionally important. And so when we talk to our clients, that's privileged information.
Sure.
But I can tell you this. We sent out a press release yesterday, and it's been covered in the front page of the paper, and people have a chance to read it. And what I would like to stress is that we now we're put on notice, of course, and we have 180 days. We're going to use that time to the county's advantage, not to ours, because it's not us versus them. I don't subscribe to that theory ever, because once again, you have individuals in this particular complaint, and it's not a lawsuit yet. After 180 days, they have the ability to file a lawsuit depending on what we do and their reaction to it. That's their decision. But we have an opportunity to be collaborative, to involve all residents of Yakima County, to determine what is the best for those people living in Yakima County. It's not the county commissioners versus any other entity.
Right.
It is us. What is the right thing to do? And I think that is everything that we need to filter when we as public servants engage in decisions such as this. This is a first impression. We're put on formal notice. This has been raised. So now what we are going to do is our due diligence to get out there, find out information, do the research, do some of the things that you just commented on and
Right.
brought about factually. We have not been able to do that yet, and especially now since it's a formalized process. And so what everyone in the county needs to know is we're going to be inclusive. We're going to look at all the issues. We're going to do what is best for the residents of Yakima County, and we will always reevaluate. We will always make the decision. I can tell you unequivocally, though, in working with county commissioners, that these individuals are deeply concerned about the people of Yakima County, and they're deeply concerned about doing the right thing. And so you have our promise collectively as county officials and as public servants to try to do the right thing. Now, that doesn't mean, once again, and I deal with this on a daily basis in my role, I may or we may as a prosecutor's office feel we're doing the right thing. People disagree with us all the time, and I certainly understand that. So,
Right.
But what we're going to do is we're going to obtain information. We're going to engage in due diligence. We're going to be good public stewards of the money and the taxpayer money, and we're going to attempt to evaluate this in a way that is professional and ethical.
Well, fair enough. I would expect nothing less. I guess the question is as you read that article, Lance, one of the changeovers cost Pierce County, I think it was $1.6 million. The changing to new systems comes at an expense. That's a concern that Pierce County put it in place, ran it a couple cycles, and the voters didn't like it. And by referendum, the voters, based on our initiative process, the voters said, hey, chuck this puppy. We don't like this. This doesn't what we want. I guess if a judge puts it on you, you don't have that option to back out from under it.
Ultimately, a judge will evaluate possibly if we can't come to a resolution. Short of that, the one thing the law demands in the Washington Voting Rights Act of 2018 is that we engage in a good faith attempt to look at these issues and to potentially resolve them. Doesn't mean we have to agree or disagree necessarily, but we have to make a good faith attempt and engage in due diligence to do the right thing. And it's required by statute, and that's what we're going to do. You know, and that's the issue, is that, once again, we have to look at all the issues as county commissioners. That's what they've been elected to do. They need to look at all those issues that affect the people of Yakima County. And one is, how are we using taxpayer money? Exceptionally important. And that's what we're going to do. And ultimately, whether we agree or disagree, we're going to do it professionally and ethically, and the judge may or may not have to make the final decision. And then ultimately, the people may, just as they did in Pierce County. That's the way the system works. And that will always be more important than any one individual issue or person in county government. That is critically important.
I wonder what would happen, just thinking out loud, if Yakima decided itself to put the system in, tried it for a couple of cycles, didn't like it, and voted out. Would that carry any weight if the ACLU came in and basically said, no, you got to go back to that, here's a lawsuit? I mean, that would make for an interesting kettle of fish. That'd be another great conversation Joe couldn't have.
Exactly. Joe Brusic, thanks for coming in this morning, man. We're going to keep in touch with you.
Absolutely.
And watch for your future press releases about this.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it once again, the opportunity, and I'm available anytime you want me to take part.